Show. How you doing, Justin? Welcome to the show.
Doing
Welcome
okay.
to the
Thanks, fellas.
show. I'm glad we all wore our blue shirts today. It's important we stay
Yeah.
unified in our dress attire.
Yeah, glad you guys got the memo.
Yeah. Well,
Consistency is key.
it is.
To be fair,
It is.
Kev's pretty predictable. He wears his LL Bean quite often.
Well, we have this is a Maine brand.
Yeah,
Where's
definitely.
a Maine? Okay, so
Yeah.
not Massachusetts, but close enough.
Close
you
enough.
could say.
Close enough.
Yeah. Cool.
Well,
Well, so
it's not just a tribute
thanks.
to you, but it works today.
It does. Yeah. I would have worn it anyway, but while we have our guests here, we try to localize things a little bit.
Right on.
Justin, so you've been in business for a little while. Tell us how you kind of get started, when you got started. You're at 5 locations now. You
Yep.
pretty much spin all the plates around there, chief bottle washer and chef and whatnot. But tell us
Right.
tell us a bit about your business, kind of how you stumbled into it.
Yeah, it's been about a decade, and I stumbled into it because I needed a place to work. And long story short, there was a much longer version of this, but I'll spare you. But the gentleman that was operating it was getting older, closer to retirement. I paid him a small fee to take over, and it was kind of an opportunity I saw. Like it was really stuck in the 90s. Literally, the fax machine was next to the coffee maker. So I threw that out day one, and just sort of started over. Yeah, it's been a fun journey since.
And so you lease all your locations, and
Yes.
were you nervous going into this first one? Were you nervous at all that you'd make rent, or was it pretty well established and you were reasonably confident?
No, it was established. I paid him a small fee for the contents and the goodwill. So it came, as an operating profitable business, from day one. So I was always the guy at a couple of startups that I was a part of that, sort of set everything up, ordered furniture, put together furniture, made sure the network was operating, doing all those little things that are actually kind of big things. So I felt confident that I could help sort of elevate the space and make it a place where people my age at the time would gravitate to. And yeah, that's a story at the high level, but there's obviously a lot of blood, sweat, tears, and light bulbs changed and furniture assembled since then. But yeah, that's kind of how it started.
How long was the timeline from location 1 to you're at 5 now, right? Like how long was that timeline, and how did you set out to get to 5, or how did that kind of unfold?
No. I thought this was going to be kind of like a pet project that I would operate, But about a year after, the landlord of the building at the first location indicated that they had a small space that they were operating as a business center in another town. And they said, we want to like triple the size of the footprint and make it, from 18 offices to 45 or something like that. And he basically said, do you want it? And so a year later, I found myself with 2. And then for the next 3 years, thereabouts, I taught myself the business because I didn't know anything. Yeah, those were some sleepless nights, to be fair.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, Taylor has a few. He loses one client and he just loses sleep. So Taylor's pretty good at losing the old sleep even without the overhead.
Yeah.
One thing goes wrong in my world, and I'm like, that's it. It's over.
I guess
I gotta start looking for a job.
Yeah.
It's been a good
The
run.
mistake I made with the second location, and I still find myself making the same mistake every once in a while, is that, I did really well with lawyers and tech guys and a certain profile at the first location. And I figured, you know what, I can just replicate this and, go after lawyers and tech guys and salespeople and, just do it again. How hard could it be, And every market, even though they're all within, 40 miles of each other, is different. And, you really need to cater to every audience in the different communities. So that was the first lesson, because I was not successful trying to replicate the success I had in the first location at the second one. And the same is true with 3, 4, and 5.
Taylor wants to ask you a question here. I
Yeah,
can
no,
tell.
I was curious. Well, we got a couple questions that we were going to ask you, and this one kind of leads into the next. But I was curious in terms of, obviously, going from 1 to 2, you were like, oh, I can make lightning strike twice and it'll be the same audience. And then you realized over time, like, oh, it's different in every market. So I'm curious now at location 5 and maybe growing, like, how has the approach to predetermining or pre-understanding a new market before you go into it, how did it change as a result of being from 1 to 2, realizing, oh wait, this is actually quite different and everything's unique? Like, how did your mindset pivot? How did your approach to figuring out the market and those new markets or new locations, how did that change over time?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll spare you all the heartache and just fast forward to the day I met Kevin.
Smart. No, we want to hear the heartache too, though. A little bit.
Because usually that sentence is flipped around.
No, no. I mean, the success in operating multiple locations is just, identifying the folks through the right advertising strategies, identifying the folks that have intent to rent an office, or to rent a meeting room, or join a co-working space. And so it's just the right messaging at the right time in front of the right person when they finally decide, today's the day that I'm going to do something about this stupid work from home thing, and the days before I met Kevin, I concentrated on things like Google My Business. I leaned way into it. I was at a juicy thing. Yeah, I was at a juicy thing about a decade ago, and I ran into a guy who used to work for Google, and he basically explained, he's like, hey, if you give Google content, they're going to reward you. So I basically concentrated on SEO, and it worked. It worked for years. And then a little thing called the pandemic came along, and I didn't have to do anything. Like, it just, if I had an open space, it was filled. But
was that during the pandemic? Was that after?
Oh, during. Like, I thought I was going to lose the entire thing. And 60 days later, the phone started ringing, and it didn't stop until I didn't have a square inch.
Why was that? That's the opposite of most people's experience.
Because I mostly concentrate on private offices. People were home for the first time. Millions of people were home for the first time. And whether it was a dog or the kids or a mother-in-law or whatever, working from home was just not an option, because it was the first time they were home, and they were like, this doesn't work. And they're like, do you have a private space where I've got 4 walls and a door and a lock? Yep. I'll be there tomorrow. One guy who's still with me here in Hingham showed up with dish gloves on and 3 masks. I'm not even kidding. I was like, what's up, dude? Is everything okay? Shout out Chris. But he was deathly afraid of it, and wanted his own space. So, and there was a lot of other people that, had different motivations to get their own space. And it just all worked out. But, back to what I was doing, I always wanted to be right at the top of the list when somebody would wake up and, grab their phone from their nightstand and, swing their legs over and be like, today's the day I'm going to do something about this, because I can't stand this anymore. Private office near me. Boom. And so that was, and then I did a lot of experimenting with social media advertising, which, didn't really, I don't think drove that much business per se. Got a lot of eyeballs. It drove website traffic, but I really wasn't capturing the folks with intent to rent an office, intent to, whatever, XYZ. So since that's changed, the business has really improved, quite frankly.
Shout
What's
out
the
all the
biggest
mother-in-laws
difference?
for running people out of the house too. Eh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Demand
Yeah.
gen.
Shout out to you guys for doing a service to the industry.
Yeah. And then, rates were, money was basically free. So people were, taking out loans and starting construction projects and doing over the kitchen again or whatever. I can't tell you how many people I've got because of kitchens.
Wow.
And then they get here and they like it and they're like, I'll stay.
It's amazing. So how's your marketing changed? So you started with more of an SEO focus and, Google My Business and maybe some content and stuff. So what's changed in the last, year or so in terms of your mindset around marketing?
Yeah. So like a year ago, I was struggling. I think a lot of folks were. There was just sort of a dip in demand. I think had a lot to do with the election, pre-election, and then post-election. There was like fear, uncertainty, and doubt, whatever. And it just made everything go sideways. And I was like, what is going on? I didn't understand it. Like people were leaving and the lead flow was just not there to replace them. And I got to a point where I have 50 offices at my main location in Hingham. And I found myself with 12 vacancies, which is just outrageous. I'd never had 12 vacancies and it's been years. And so I honestly, Kevin, I think that's when I saw you on that podcast or something, webinar.
The webinar, yeah.
And just reached out because I just needed somebody to ask me the 10 questions that I didn't know the answers to,
Yeah.
And you did just that, just
got a lot more questions for you on this podcast. So see if I can stump you again if that's what you're looking for.
Kevin asked me a lot of questions I don't know the answers to. I think we made a whole episode of Kevin asking me questions I didn't know the answers to.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty
putting it out in the world.
Train wreck. Published.
It was emotional.
Yeah. And so what belief is different now in terms of your general approach to marketing that maybe you weren't sort of thinking about front and center? Maybe you were doing it or not, but if you could kind of attribute anything to your change.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've leaned into a couple of things. Video, for instance, there's a lot of video on my website now. There's a lot more sort of dynamic photography on the website and in the advertising that we do. The retargeting, just sort of keeping my name in front of people. If they do ping the site through an ad, keeping my name in front of them through social media and through the display network with Google. And I think the result of that has been, far more predictable lead flow. I no longer get like the Monday jitters, like, what am I going to do this week? I get like excited because I know, I'm going to get introduced to 20 new people this week, somehow.
Yeah.
And that's what's exciting, I think. It's just, and even when people leave, I don't get excited if they leave, but like, it's almost like an opportunity, when people leave at this point. My average stay for offices right now is 25 months. And so when they leave, repositioning the office, repainting it, maybe adding a TV, maybe adding a whiteboard, just sort of freshening it up, making that space a little bit more excited for the next person to walk in and be like, oh, I could picture myself here. This looks okay.
Probably increase the rent a little,
raise the rent a little. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yep. And so you were doing advertising before, but do you think your ads have changed now? So you talked about video and kind of, I guess, and retargeting and stuff, and really just kind of creating that high fidelity, if you will. It's my favorite word when it comes to video. High fidelity experience for your members and for your prospects. But yeah, has your approach to advertising changed, or is that still a big driver in your mind relative to what it was before?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think the messaging is a lot more crisp. I think we sort of did a lot of work to identify our target audience, by looking at the current population, the current roster, and just thinking more like them, thinking more like them and understanding their motivations to join us in the first place and turning that into messages that might resonate with like-minded individuals.
Right. And so now that you're doing better in terms of occupancy overall, I think is it fair to say you're focusing your attention on ancillary revenues and trying to grow like meeting rooms, virtuals? Is there any learnings from that that you'd want to share with people?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I am just in the last, I'd say, month or two, have really started to lean into virtual in a more meaningful way. I signed up for a company called Sphere Mail. I'm terrible at saying their name. And they're going to help me get into compliance in a more meaningful way with respect to virtual mail. That's a whole category I just didn't understand very well. And so they're bringing us up to speed with technology and with marketing and new markets that I wasn't even aware of. So yeah, absolutely. My goal for this year, I've kind of identify a project. It seems to happen in 12-month cycles, but not on purpose. My project for this year is to really ramp that up and make it a repeatable business that drives more revenue. And really the project is to make each individual location more profitable rather than trying to grow for growth's sake and open another spot with another, 30, 40 offices or something.
Yeah,
Have
the
you had to
virtual
make any
thing is good as well
staffing?
because it allows you to kind of expand beyond square footage, right? If you're at or near
Yeah.
occupancy for a lot of the time, that's great. But how can you start to maximize kind of beyond the walls of the space to bring in revenue that's not necessarily tied to square footage?
Yep. Absolutely. I totally agree. I wish meeting rooms could be a better driver for us, but we're mostly in bedroom communities, and there's just not a lot of demand for. Well, there is, but there's just not enough to move the needle, if you will. I could advertise till the cows come home, but it's not going to be there as a big driver for growth in the future. But I really feel as though the virtual office thing is going to be a big driver, especially in AI. There's going to be people that aren't going to be raising 10, $20 million to start a company. There's going to be like 2 or 3 guys in a basement starting a company with agents and creating, real revenue models out of thin air as a result of AI. So I think there's going to be a lot of businesses started in this country very soon as a result of what's going on
Maybe
there.
buy agents too. You have an agent who goes and registers a virtual mail and then goes to, New
Yep.
Hampshire and registers a corporation and then signs up for a bank. Like, the way things are going,
Right. It's wild.
it's not even going to be humans signing up for these things. And
Right.
if you can integrate it all and digitally send stuff. And have you had to make any staffing adjustments, or do you feel like you can handle much of a surplus of virtual mail subscribers before staffing and delivery becomes an issue?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure how it's going to go. It's kind of like a problem I'll solve another day.
Good problem.
But yeah, it's a good problem.
It's a champagne problem. If you have so much revenue coming in terms of digital mail that you need to hire somebody to help you manage it, then that's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got a great staff, and we lean on technology already in a major way. And I think the same is going to be true with the Sphere Mail application. So we'll see.
Yeah, on that tech point, sorry, Kev, if I'm jumping around here, but I know that, you had mentioned that you use a lot of tech in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
So paired that with your current team that you have, your staff, what's your current tech kind of stack, I guess, look like in
Yep.
terms of, and like, how does that keep operations lean, and how does that support revenue as well?
Yeah. Good question. So for the longest time, I did not bite the bullet and purchase a co-working management platform. At least that's what I call them. I know a fair bit about technology. I used to, in another life, sell IT consulting services. So I like to think of myself as sort of technology forward, but I was never too impressed with those platforms. They seem to be sort of a mile wide and an inch deep. They did a lot of things, but didn't do a lot of things too well, at least in my mind, until I found a company called Optix. And I bought Optix right before I opened my 5th location, because I found myself at a point where I was like, if I don't start leaning into this now, it's going to get crazy. And shortly after I bought that platform and integrated it, they launched something called automations, which has been a godsend. It's awesome. I have 80 plus automations running in the background. If someone rents a meeting room, it kicks off a workflow of emails and tasks, and before the person even arrives, after they leave, it asks them for if you liked your experience, would you leave us a review on Google, all these things. And it has been a great way to enable me to treat everybody the same. When when someone walks into one of my spaces for the first time, I want them to have the same experience, meaning, our co-working, our community manager is tasked with making sure the space looks as good as it did for the first person that ever walked in. The technology does almost the same thing in that it gives everybody the same experience, whether they're spending $49 or, they're with me for 25 months at $1,000 a month. Everybody gets treated the same. And that has been the best part about the platform, because it took away all those, oh geez, did I send them the Wi-Fi? Did I send them? It just stripped away all that stuff and just let us concentrate on making sure their experience is as good as the last person that walked in and as good as the next person that will walk in. That's the easiest way to say it. It does like 40 other things, but that to me is the biggest benefit. And so I used to have QuickBooks and a CRM and an email marketing platform and all, probably 3 or 4 disparate silos of information. Now there's just one.
And they're out of Vancouver, I think, right? Canada?
Yeah, shout out Canada.
Just like Taylor.
Shout out Canada. They're down here. Actually, Kia actually he's always having events and stuff. I think I've missed a couple, but probably stop by the next one.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm bullish if you can't tell.
Yeah. It's picking it up.
Yeah. What else is like really important for you in terms of your day to day? I know you use Superhuman, so maybe we can use this as a bit of a caveat or like a tangent. You handle sales. You're the front
Yep.
of sales, and so I know you handle that in your email inbox. And I think Superhuman is one of the tools you use to manage that,
Yep.
which is just an email. It sits on top of your Google powered or your Microsoft powered email.
Yep.
But yeah, like, are there any kind of tips or tricks that enable you to both run a business and run sales across 5 locations? Anything like Superhuman? If it's that, do you want to explain kind of how you use that in a way that's effective for you?
Yeah. So I follow up with every lead almost immediately, and I don't care what they're trying to spend money on. And because I'm not, thinking about someone else's experience, because the automation is taking care of that, it allows me to focus on following up with someone immediately. Because if you let somebody go stale, somebody else is going to take care of them. There's a lot of these things around, so I follow up as soon as I can, as soon as possible. And then it puts that email back in my inbox a day or 2 later if they haven't responded. And then 2 days later, it does it again. So I'm doing this sequential email thing through Superhuman, and it writes an email for me. Just following up on your interest in an office in Cohasset, blah, blah, blah. It writes like me now. It understands the way I write, which is a little weird, but all you have to do is hit send. And I can't tell you how many deals I've closed as a result of that. It takes less than a second to just ding, send it off, ding, send. And so I wake up at 8 a.m. They all appear in my inbox, and I can send off 4 in like 4 seconds.
Yeah.
However many popped up.
How was kind of like the learning, maybe not the learning curve, but I feel like building trust in its ability to write for you so that you could just be like, you know what, this actually sounds like me. Did it take you some time to wrap your head around that?
A little bit. At first it wasn't doing it exactly the way I would have written it. And so I would correct it. And the next time it learned. I think it just learned the way, I do it. And so now it sounds like me. So that's been huge. Like I said, I've always been in sales. And when I first got into this business, I thought it was about, real estate and sales. And it took me a few years, but I realized it's more about marketing and hospitality. So marketing fills the funnel. Hospitality ensures a good experience, but you still need to close a deal, So luckily, I've had 30 plus years of sales experience, and I love closing deals. So I still get a lot of joy out of it.
Makes you feel alive.
Yeah, it does. But if somebody schedules a tour, my community manager typically handles that. If the follow-up is writing a proposal, whether I gave the tour or they gave the tour, they write a proposal, they send it to me. We make sure that it checks all the boxes, portrays the messages that we want it to, and we send it off. And so it's just sort of a serve and volley, a round robin of just making it all happen.
And do you follow up after they tour, or do you leave that to your location manager to do?
It depends. It's probably 50-50.
Okay.
Yep.
And so that's Superhuman. So that lives outside of your CRM. Is it integrated with your CRM on the back end as well? So the contacts are kind of in there?
No.
Do you just kind of ignore it? Yeah.
No, everything gets dumped into Optix.
Okay.
So I use Zapier to take leads from however I capture them. I've got a chatbot on my website from Intercom. Shout out Intercom.
Talked about that too.
What an awesome platform. And so if somebody pings that and puts in their information, everything just gets dumped into Optix. If someone fills out a form on the website, into Optix.
And then you get email notification, and then you use your email inbox to kind of manage it from then, and then presumably go back in Optix at some point and move people through your pipeline.
Yep, pretty much.
Clean it up.
That's exactly how it works. Yeah. Yep.
Interesting. Yeah. Tell us a bit about that chat widget. So I know we were looking at different chat widgets and, AI or not, or human or not. And you landed on Intercom, which is one of the ones that I definitely recommend because it tracks in Google Analytics. You can track it back to your ads and see if it was an ad lead as an example.
Yep.
It integrates all that stuff. And now it has an AI feature, right? Which maybe you can talk on. And they've actually repositioned themselves as kind of being an AI sales agent or an AI customer experience app kind of thing. And so they've made that pivot.
Yeah,
What's been your experience with that?
Absolutely. They call it Fin, Fin. And it was super easy to teach it everything. It basically just crawled my website and got probably 79% the way there. And then everything else, if I'm running a promotion, for instance, I just write a document, PDF it, and upload it, and it will tell somebody about a promotion just randomly. I don't know how much. This is something I should take a closer look at. How much business I've derived from it, but it's pretty powerful, and it does not make too many mistakes. And if it makes a mistake, it's my mistake because I didn't teach it correctly.
Right.
So I've found myself going back to it every once in a while and just feeding it data. But if you have a robust website, it crawls your website in seconds, and it's live.
And it's pretty clear that it's AI, right? I think it's forthcoming saying, "Hey, I'm an AI agent, but I'm trained up on all the materials. So you're not trying to pretend it's a human," which I think is an important factor personally.
Yep, 100%. I call it Lillian. My maternal grandmother was Lillian, so
Lovely.
Why not?
Lovely name.
And she kind of looks like a younger Nana, but anyways, I found a photo and just uploaded it. So yeah, no, it's very, very clear up front that I'm an AI chatbot. Ask me a question and I'll answer it to the best of my ability, type of thing. And
do you think that manages expectations in terms of like people not getting frustrated if it's not a real human? Like they're kind of going in knowing that this is effectively a search query bot as opposed to getting frustrated.
Yeah.
Do you notice frustration in the chat?
Some people don't get it clearly, but a lot of people do. They interact with it. They say thank you, they say please, and like it's funny to watch. Like the second someone pings it, it pops up on my phone, and I can monitor the chat going back and forth. And if at one point I feel like interrupting, I do.
And
Like,
then it
so you
lets
can
take
chime
over.
in.
I can chime in. I'll be driving, and
Don't say
I'll
that.
see this chat going on. Yet don't tell the local
And you pull,
police.
you pull over safely, and then
I pull over safely, put in park, the whole thing, and I just talk into my phone back and forth with this thing, and the person on the other side gets almost shocked, like, hey, it's Justin from Workspace. Let me interrupt and give you a little bit more information about what you're inquiring about. And they're like, oh, hey, okay, sounds great.
yeah,
it's pretty
awesome.
cool. It's
and
pretty cool.
You've had a couple occasions where it successfully sold someone on a promotion or a package or an office or something. Is that
100%? 100%. Yeah. I mean, I can't recall like a specific instance, but no, there's been. I have a promotion going right now that is like a 3-week trial promotion, and I've welcomed at least half a dozen people to the trial as a result of them learning about it on the chatbot, which is pretty cool.
Then also reminds you that maybe that promotion is not quite as visible as it needs to be if they're finding out about it through the bot as opposed to whatever page they're on. Might mean more visibility for that. But either way, I think you mentioned at one point it read your blog post about a promo and then told someone about it and then kind of
actually that's how we teach it. Like if
by writing blog posts,
we just write a blog post about it.
You're speaking Taylor's love language here.
The blog the blog doesn't get, I don't think it gets a lot of readership. I have no idea. But it's a great way to teach Lillian about what's going on, because it'll just crawl the site, however many times a day it does that, and learns about this new promotion and speaks very eloquently about it if prompted.
I love it. See, Taylor, cool. All right, the old blog post coming back, PR is coming back,
blog posts returning,
ahead of your time.
AI returning. PR returning, using your blog content to train your AI. I like it.
Yeah, I love it. Cool. So you talked about Optix. You've talked about Superhuman, which is your mail tool. You've talked about your live chat tool that you're using. Any other kind of cool technology or stuff you're doing that, I noticed you've been pretty handy with Canva lately. Maybe that's just because you're kind of multifaceted as a business owner, but any other kind of nifty tools you think that are helpful for you as a business?
I did create my own ads. That was pretty interesting. That I used to be pretty good at PowerPoint, and if you were good at PowerPoint,
not to brag, but
you're not to brag. This was like 20 years ago. Geez. If you were okay at PowerPoint, you're good at Canva. And so I've used that sparingly. Lisa, who's my community manager here in Hingham, she handles all organic social media, and she uses it quite a bit. So that's another platform. But
do you use the AI feature on Canva? Have you had any success with that?
No, I haven't touched that. No.
They really they sold it as like this ultra powerful, just tell us what you want and then the AI will do it. But I found that it does not. Like 80% of what you ask, it's like, sorry, I can't do that right now. And I'm like, okay. Well.
Yeah. They integrate with ChatGPT, I think, too. So you can even prompt it in ChatGPT and then have it generate it through Canva. But I feel like you got to still have the ingredients. You got to know things like your brand fonts, your brand colors, your style guide, your messaging, totally. Have some supplementary imagery. I don't know.
Yeah. That's how it can go sideways. I think it looks cool, if creating something like that, but it doesn't jive with your brand. Why would it? I have been leaning into the LLMs quite a bit as well. When we were doing all that work last summer on my website, I didn't have any metadata behind the pages. And descriptors and titles and all that, and I didn't write a word of it. ChatGPT wrote all of it, and it sounded great. So I used it.
Yep.
And
We should look at your analytics and see how has your SEO changed, because you did do a few DIY. You added schema markup that we used AI to help write, and
yeah,
meta titles, descriptions, so on and so forth. Yeah,
yeah,
FAQs.
yeah. And I recently switched over to using Gemini almost exclusively just because it comes with Google
Yeah.
Workspace. And I think I was paying like $60 a month for OpenAI. But yeah, for my purposes, it works great.
You're interesting. Sorry, Taylor, if I'm just dominating the
No, I'm just
questions
listening
here.
in. You're good.
You could just cut me off anytime, as you're prone to do. You also are good at using AI to investigate keywords. You were asking things around keywords, or
Yeah,
basically, if you're trying to figure something, you're using it as your first resort of questioning, right? Which
right.
makes you a little more informed when you're working with your ads specialist or
Yep.
whatever else, because you're kind of bringing some, maybe you had some kind of rough thoughts, questions, and then it helps you untangle it and give you specificity, and then you can run it by someone, and that just helps the person doing your ads you've done a base level of thinking from your business perspective.
Right.
Is there anything else like that? Like, is that a common practice for you? I've just kind of noticed.
Yeah, that's a super good example of using AI to get a little bit smarter a lot faster about a topic and presenting it to a partner, someone that you're working with on a specific project, just so they know that, like, okay, this guy is gonna check my work. This guy
Think about the details.
yeah, this guy's
I
all
know
about
this
the
stuff.
details, and
Yeah.
it just elevates your someone's perception of you about the topic. Yeah, if you don't have time to be an ads expert.
It helps, though. It helps the technician to
100%.
go, okay, I see where you're going with this. I see why you're asking this, and I can see that. And then they can inform you about their approaches or whatever.
Yep.
But the
Yep.
last thing you want is to not be able to interface with such key roles like ads, like SEO, like your web developer or whatever.
Yep.
The last thing you want is to be like, I don't even know how to touch this.
Right.
And
right.
I think AI is a nice way to kind of bridge that, at least to speak kind of quote unquote dumb, or like whatever. You're not dumb and you're not ill-informed, but
Yeah.
you can kind of put in your rudimentary questions or thoughts and then have it help you develop them more concretely. And honestly, it does help your suppliers, right? I think it does.
Yeah, totally.
Give them a level of support.
I use Upwork a lot. I'm a big proponent, huge fan of Upwork, because it just puts you in front of people across the world that have domain expertise in whatever your problem is.
Yep.
And they actually have, when you're writing a description of what you're trying to solve, they have an AI component that just says, just start typing and tell us about your problem, and then you hit enter, and it writes this whole thing. Like, is this what you meant? As a matter of fact, yes.
Yeah.
And so then you're presenting, a business issue and a way you think it could be solved or should be solved to an audience of thousands of people that are well qualified.
And the key thing is you're briefing it properly too, right? Because the hardest part is, as any marketing supplier will tell you, like when someone gives you a half-assed brief and then you're like, well, now I actually got to ask you a million questions and really uncover stuff. Right. You can throw in your half-baked idea, and then it'll give you lots more structured maybe questions or thinking, and then you can verify the details, and then it's like input output, right? Garbage in, garbage out, and gives you a little better in.
Yeah, Upwork is a gold mine. Oh,
I was just gonna say, like a lot of people haven't heard of Upwork when I talk to them about it, and they compare it to like a Fiverr, and I'm like, there's two ends of a spectrum. I feel like Fiverr is like the really kind of like quick, cheap, sort of like you want to get something done really fast. It doesn't need to be like crazy professional. I mean, it can be, but Upwork is really much more of like a marketplace where you're going to get those kind of super certified, really highly qualified people. So they're like,
there's also a lot of bad stuff out there. There's a lot of garbage too, right? Like you do have to kind of sift through it. Maybe Justin, you can talk about your vetting process, but you're right. Upwork has all the best talent and not great talent.
I mean, small business owners like myself don't have time. I don't have time to go find some local company and go through a discovery process and a proposal back and forth and outlining an 8-week project. Especially in marketing, marketing related topics in this business, you just got to get the message out. We're not running GM here. Billions of people aren't going to see these messages. it's okay if they're not like, dead on,
Yeah.
it's so just, just get it done. And
Yeah.
the best part about Upwork is it's a platform that allows you to just get things done in a matter of days, like days, hours, rather than, going through this whole process and, interviewing 3 vendors and, the whole rest of it. It just, and in my experience with those types of people, nothing against them, but like they try to be something they're not most of the time. But you can't, these people on this platform cannot hide it. Like they have to have results quick. And
Yeah.
that's kind of how I run this business. It's just, every once in a while, Kevin, you're just like, oh, wow, you did that already. Like
Yeah.
I,
he's Justin cannot be matched in terms of his execution abilities, like, and far outside of what he should be capable of. He just came back and be like, yeah, I hired these models, we did these photos, they're scripting this thing, and now we're running this video ad that we just produced. I'm like, we spoke Monday, this is now Wednesday, like, and he didn't even consult with me on some of these things. But he's extraordinarily good. You're extraordinarily good at getting stuff done, to your point. And then we got to rein you in a little bit, and I think that's a normal thing.
Yeah,
in
definitely.
terms of just honing it in.
Yeah, the ideas start to go a little kaflooey sometimes.
No, but like horseshoes and hand grenades, like you're close, right? And then like often that's enough to get the business results. And if you overthink it, that last 20% can drive you mad.
Yep.
So
horseshoes and hand grenades. I've never heard that, and I like it.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah. Well, they say close only counts in horseshoes, hand grenades, and marketing, apparently. So
I think that's the title for this episode.
There you go. Yeah.
I don't like giving Kevin credit for
you.
cool stuff that he says, but when he does, you gotta give him credit.
It doesn't happen often, but when it does,
it's sweet.
So what else are you seeing, man? What's your kind of vision now? So I know you're talking about ancillary revenue and maximizing your profit based on your 5 buildings. What are you seeing as kind of the trend, or what are you seeing as kind of the direction things are going in, and where are you going to be focusing your energy and efforts in 2026?
Yeah, it's a good question. That is a good question. I've been focusing on a lot of projects lately, so I don't think I've given the topic of sort of holistically, where am I going with this thing, enough attention recently, just because I've been super heads down. But I never say no to anything. So if an opportunity arises that I shouldn't pass up, then I won't. As far as getting another address. But for now, I'm super focused on just making sure each space remains at an occupancy level that I'm comfortable with, that I'm happy with. There's one of them that's not there, quite frankly, and I work on it every day, and it'll get there. It's got the right momentum. It's got the right community manager. I just hired a new person there, and she's working out amazingly. So I've got all the confidence in the world we'll get there. It's just taking a minute, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Everyone's got one of those locations, right? One that's a star that just prints money, and then one that, you just got to keep nurturing, as long as it doesn't distract you from the other 4.
Right.
Like sometimes your worst thing is where you put all your energy, and then it kind of to the detriment to the things that are working well. And that doesn't sound like the case for you at all, but it's very common. You run the same playbook for your whole business, and then this location, it just goes to show you the power of supply and demand.
Right.
As well. And like, it's really hard to predict that when you're choosing your locations,
because it sure is.
What looks like the same thing on paper is completely different.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'd caution others in this business, to just be a little weary of, someone that shows you, a growth chart, well, if you open this and, you're in this market and, here's the feasibility study, and everything just goes like this in a linear fashion, and you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
Burn that thing.
Yeah.
I didn't make a mistake, but it's not linear.
Yeah. And it's such a game of inches too, as like you're irking out an advantage here. You're improving a few thing on this landing page, and then you're improving some of your onboarding automations or your ads or whatever. And like, it's kind of like at your level, it's not like there's one thing that's going to broadly improve everything. It's very much like irking out a 5% improvement here and a 4% improvement there and 10% over here. Rolling out a new project that's 80% good, and and good stuff happens.
One thing I am learning with that location. It's my newest one. It was opened in September of 24. Is that it's a star for day passes, an absolute
Interesting.
rock star. Yeah. So it's taught us a lot about the day pass business and how we can replicate that across the other locations. And that was a welcome surprise. Obviously, we're filling a need, and if I kind of look around at the market locally, there isn't somebody offering a solution that nice at that price with that much supply.
So what have you learned? What have you learned about day passes that might be applicable to others?
Uh, that they can drive some revenue. I mean, that's the one thing.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I've learned. And sort of segregating a couple of spaces specific for it, and thinking about when spaces become available at other locations. Should this be our designated day office? And just little things like that. But it's definitely filling a need, and I think it's going to be a need in general that accelerates over time. Quite frankly,
I can see that.
because as like a third space, they always talk about the third space in this business. People have an office, people have their home, but they might need that third space, and that's sort of the need that we're filling. So yeah, I think it's something that we'll probably implement at other spaces, and just see how it goes.
Is it the audience there? Like, is it near like an airport? Is it people traveling for a day? Is it just people
No.
who want to get out of the house? Is it like?
Yeah, I think it's just people that want to get out of the house, or they're in town for a week visiting their parents, or last week we sold a bunch of day passes because we had a blizzard, and there were certain communities that were buried in 36 inches of snow and no power and nothing. So they arrived at their parents near us, and they needed a place to work. That was a need we were filling every day last week. So just any number of things can drive it, but I think it's gonna be something that accelerates down the line.
Yeah. See it.
Is it lead gen? Like, are any of those people converting to office users eventually? Because sometimes you dabble and you're like, yeah, I'll work, once in a while when the kids are home on a PA day or a snow day, and then next thing you're like, maybe I will do this. Like, do you
What
work?
we're
do you
converting them
reach out
in,
to them?
what we're converting them in to is more predictable revenue. So like we offer 10-day packages. Use these 10 days inside of the next 90 days, or a monthly renewable. Use these 10 days every month. They expire at the end of the month, but you get another 10 next month. We're converting a lot of people in Beverly, the location I was referencing, to those types of packages, and it's really working out. Like every once in a while, I'll just see ding, somebody spent another $415. It's like, I'll take it.
And are you doing that with your automations? I know you were looking at
Yeah,
triggers based on purchases. Was that where you're going, Taylor? Yeah.
that's where I was going. Yeah.
No, not with the automation yet, but that's a really, really good idea. We'll do that tomorrow. But
He will. He's
and
not
we'll
kidding,
do it
folks.
tomorrow. Absolutely, from whatever we'll have it done
It'll be
tomorrow.
done. Yeah.
Carrie is my automation queen, I call her, and she will do that tomorrow. But no, we use Optix to market to them. Like a couple of weeks ago, we did a mailing through Optix announcing that we have, this package. You might be interested. You might have heard of it before, but it seems like you're enjoying the space. Would you consider this? And you get to save 30% or 20%, whatever the number is. So yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of revenue opportunities in bundling with things like that, right? Like if you're seeing those day passes and then you're going to start offering virtual office, or you've got the 10-day meeting room packages or whatever, like there's a lot of opportunity to pair those things up and kind of take that person from that one-time revenue into, hey, maybe you need this, maybe you need 10 days in the next 90, maybe you need an office address, all those kind of things. And the opportunity to take from one time to something more is definitely there with those kind of services.
Yes. Yeah. We do that today with our premium virtual office packages. They get 1 day pass a month, and I think 2 or 3 hours of meeting room time or something like that. And then The good thing about Optix is another good thing is that you can, after their third use, automatically give them a 30% discount on their fourth use.
Smart.
So it's pretty cool.
This episode was not brought to you by Optix, but
Yeah, sorry.
maybe by the time we release
We're
it,
not
will be.
looking for sponsors. Yeah. If you'd like to sponsor us, Optix.
Yeah,
know
the
we're
unofficial
there.
sponsor of this week's episode.
Yeah.
I've always been a guy that knows what he likes, so whatever. If it works,
Yeah.
it works.
If it works for you, it works for you. If it works for you, it'll work for other people, and they may as well know about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that automation piece is key, right, for you, because you've really set it up that if someone books their first meeting room, then there's an automation. If they become a part-time member, there's an automate. Like basically everything allows you to essentially at least check in with them, onboard them, and or move them to a next phase. And you can do that with other tools. When you integrate other tools to your CRM, you can set those up, and something that Taylor and I do. But to have it all baked into one place, and then to be also to deliver a discount that is contextual and is aware that it's truly your fourth booking, for an example, like
Right.
it's got to be really helpful to have that all integrated and organized.
It is, and you can turn off certain things. Like if it's their fourth visit, they don't get the email telling them where the bathroom is.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. So it doesn't feel irrelevant.
they don't get the Wi-Fi credentials because they know them. Like
Yeah.
the last thing I want to be is annoying. And so it'll let you do things like that too. It's pretty cool.
I think automations, like, I think however you're implementing them, whether it's through Optix or whether it's other platforms that you're using, I feel like automations are one of the most kind of like slept on things that I see missing in, engagements with clients or prospective clients. So I feel like hearing all the success that you have is a really good proof point for like, you should have all these great marketing functions running on autopilot so you don't have to think about it, so that it creates that consistency. But it is interesting that it's kind of, maybe because it's complex, I feel like people don't do it as much as they should. So I feel like you're a great, I
think the AI is capturing too much of your mind share, and it doesn't have to be AI. It could be these, very prescripted automations that handle pretty much everything.
Yeah.
I think part of it though is that like list hygiene is never that good for people, especially when you have a tool that's separate from your email tool. So you have all your people on an email list, but you don't know what location they're from, what products they've purchased, whether they're a lead, a deal, an alumni,
what they're interested in.
what they're interested in. And so you end up, it becomes like first, getting that clean so that you can send emails on an automated basis to the right people and actually depend on it, especially when you have tools like Zapier in between. So a lot of people get overwhelmed. That's why Taylor and I are in business, because we don't mind solving those kinds of problems. But it seems like Optix, as an example, I'm sure there's others, I'm not sure.
Yeah, sure.
Big favorites here. But that's a huge benefit, right? Simplicity, even if it doesn't have all the things you need it to do, and I'm sure it doesn't. Like those things allow you to focus on the lead in front of you and the problem of the marketing challenge that you're working on today.
100%.
And maybe that's one of your secrets to how much you're able to get done.
Yep. Yeah. The key is tagging everybody with the right metadata, such that you can, pull the people that you want to pull and send them the message that's appropriate for them.
And does Optix do that for you automatically, or do you have to do that yourself? A bit of both.
I would say it's probably 40% automated, and then you gotta add the rest.
Yeah.
But it's not hard.
And do you think that's a significant driver in your business, some of these automations? I guess a inconsequential amount.
I don't think it's very consequential in attracting people. I think it's consequential in keeping people and giving them a good experience, and that's
right.
That's the other half of the business.
Yep.
Yep.
Cool. Well, I mean, is there anything else that you think would be beneficial to an operator? We focus on the kind of growth of your business and finding ways to leverage things, people, tools, tactics. But is there anything else you think that has been really helpful for you that you think others should take away, and maybe a mindset that's worth internalizing, as an example, or a tactic if you prefer?
Yeah, I mean, it's no secret the margins are thin in this business, and we don't have the time or the margins to make big mistakes. And the most dangerous thing in this business is bad advice.
Well, I apologize to everyone I've ever talked to, but just
what's that?
I said I apologize to everyone I've ever talked to.
No. So I would just vet all the people that you sort of are thinking about engaging with. I've done a horrible job of reaching out to people who are like me. Just awful. And I had the good fortune of meeting Sarah Travers. I don't know if I'm saying her name correctly. Sorry. She's the CEO of Workbar here in the Boston area. Like 2 weeks ago, first time I ever met her, and it's just an awesome conversation. So reach out to folks that do what you do before getting in bed with somebody that you don't know and you're not certain of the outcome. Because I made a huge mistake. They'll go unnamed, or it will go unnamed. But it cost me $20,000 to unplug it. All right. So
you just have to eat it. Yep.
Yeah, you just got to eat it. So yeah, I mean, I think that's the biggest piece of advice I'd ever give anybody, wherever they are in this business. And I'm sure a lot of people that have been doing it a decade like me would have the same advice. Is just, make sure everybody that you work with is vetted.
Well, I feel like this industry is really good for that as well. I feel like it's one of the unique properties of the co-working industry is that everybody's pretty open and willing to share thoughts and ideas and talk to you, even if there may be some competitive overlap in there to some extent. Everybody's pretty open and willing to share their advice and share suggestions and ideas. I think it's a good thing.
Absolutely. It's a great.
There's a heavy correlation I found between people who are the most generous at sharing with peers and just looking for, guidance. So the people who are sharing the most tend to be the most successful. So I think, sometimes it's going to these events and then meeting a couple people, and then it's, just like yourself, reaching out to various people who are successful at virtuals or meeting rooms, or, are in your backyard, as the case with Workbar, and just talking to people. And I've found the people who are the most cagey tend to struggle the most, and the people who are the most both generous but also interactive, I don't know if it's luck or otherwise, but they end up doing very well. So it is unique to this industry, and I think there's an abundance mindset. Like there's plenty to go around, and so I would agree with that. And you'll get a lot of great referrals as opposed to having to go on Upwork for every need you have.
Yeah.
The industry is full of good people.
Right.
So talking to some people is probably your best starting point. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Cool. Well, Justin, thanks for joining us on this. We just, you've been doing so well, and you kind of have this business that just really chugs along, and you're, as we've alluded, you're very good at executing, and you're just on the ball, you're on top of things. And so we wanted to pick your brain a little and try to figure out if there was any hints and secrets. And I think you've been really generous yourself with kind of giving some of these needle movers for you. And if someone wanted to reach out to you and to interact, talk with you, ask questions and share notes, what's the best way that they could contact you?
Just send me an email, Justin at Workspace MA, as in Massachusetts.com.
Awesome. Well, we'll put that in the show notes, and we'll maybe not hyperlink it so you don't get bot spammed.
We'll break it up so you don't get
we'll break it up.
The unwanted email.
Spam will never be able to figure this one out. Yeah.
Are
you also on LinkedIn? Okay. Maybe because you're just leaving your email on podcasts. Are you also on LinkedIn or
Yes, of course. I think it's Justin M. Moran.
Okay.
M for macho.
No, M for macho.
That was self-explanatory.
It's actually Mario.
Okay. All right. Well, you could have stuck with macho, but Mario works.
No,
either way is
better.
Either way is cool.
It's pretty good. Yeah.
Macho Mario.
Yeah, that was stupid. Anyway.
Yeah, that was great. That was the best part of the pod. Well, thanks, Justin. We love a good laugh around here, and it was a pleasure having you on. And we'll see you in the next one, I guess. Next time we bring you back.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks, fellas.
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks.
My pleasure. Have a good one.